Hi, Soul Family. Welcome to my channel. We talk about all things to heal, grow, and evolve. And today I want to talk about regulating your nervous system. And I wanted to talk about this because I've been experiencing this for a while, especially after doing a lot of shadow work, a lot of healing, a lot of self-awareness. It's funny how we do a lot of self-awareness. So we're mentally aware of the triggers and the traumas we experience in our life and how it's affecting us. However, we still get some symptoms. We still get some signs that the body responds to when we interact with these traumas. Although our mind is aware of it, our emotions are healed from it, sometimes our body still remembers it. So this is where nervous system regulation comes into play, because healing is not linear, it's in a spiral, and there's so many different layers of healing and traumas we need to release in our lives. So even though we emotionally or mentally healed from a trauma, sometimes our body still remembers it, because all starts in the mind, and then in return it manifests itself in the physical. So whatever emotions we're feeling, it can manifest through physical symptoms in our body. So how do we regulate the nervous system? Pretty much is having a support between your sympathetic and your parasympathetic nervous system, which is basically how your body perceives and responds to stress, to trauma, to triggers that you're experiencing at a consistent basis. Because we all need that flight or fight mode in our body, because it's here to protect us so we can sense danger and we can take action appropriately. But if we're not able to shut it off when we need to, if it's always on constant go mode, that's going to cause an effect on our body. It's going to cause a disturbance. There's going to be a lot of disbalance between stress and our emotion. And because we're in this disturbance, we're not in balance with our hormones anymore. You lose that homeostasis in your body, and this shows up in many different ways, such as stress, burnout, and dis-ease, because your body is at dis-ease. If this is your first video, welcome. My name is Sage, and on this channel we talk about things such as spirituality, metaphysics, and African history. So if that's something that you're interested in, just keep on watching. So I want to share a story that happened a few days ago where I was lying in bed. I was taking a nap, want to take me a little snooze for the day. As soon as I was about to doze off to sleep, my heart started beating, started pounding out of my chest out of nowhere. Also, while I was laying in bed, I just had sudden thoughts about my future, my intentions, and where I saw myself in the next few years. And my heart started pounding all of a sudden. I got a bunch of heart palpitations. And this is the same type of heart palpitations I would get when I'm anxious, when I'm paranoid about something, or some fearful thing comes up in my life, or when I'm exposed to some type of trauma or trigger in my life. It's that same type of heart palpitation that you normally get. That is a sign of anxiety that I had. That is an anxiety symptom that I have, that with those heart palpitations. And that's the same exact type of reaction I had. It came as soon as I started thinking about my future, my thoughts, plans, where I see myself. However, my body had a response to those thoughts, but my mind was not following what my body was responding to. So before I was on my healing journey, I would used to react to the worst case scenarios about my future. Sometimes my thoughts would just spiral out of control. I would just jump to the worst case scenario about me being a failure in life, about me not succeeding in life, or just the thought of what if all my dreams don't come true. But because I did the healing work, my mind didn't respond to what my body was responding to. Instead, I was aware of what was happening. I was aware of my thoughts. I was aware of where these sensations or these heart palpitations were stemming from. And instead of allowing my thoughts to spiral out of control, I allowed the thought process to process in my mind. Pretty much what I did was I released and I just surrendered to that moment. I surrendered to that heart palpitations. I surrendered to those body responses for trauma and triggers in my life. Instead of fighting it like I would normally do in my mind and overthinking and just start ruminating the worst case scenarios of my life, I just released and I just surrendered. So okay, I told myself, me failing in life is a possibility, but it's not my reality. So what really helped me was to let go of these thoughts that used to put me in a chokehold, and letting these imaginary thoughts of possibilities get the best of me, when these are just possibilities. It's not my actual reality. These are just what if scenarios that I've made up in my head, and become so fearful of them, just the possibility, not even the actual reality of this becoming my life. It used to be so bad. I used to be just even scared of just even seeing or hearing the word failure in my life. Like if I even see or hear the word failure, I'll close my eyes, I'll close my ears. Like, I was so terrified of the word failure because I thought if I look at the word failure, I identify with it so much that I'll become afraid of it to the point where I may become the actual failure I'm afraid of. I was so afraid of it becoming my reality. And in return, I internalize that within, and that is that bodily response that comes out of me whenever I think about my future, if I made the right choices in my life, and where I see myself. But that wasn't a very healthy way of processing it, because not only was I just fighting with my mind or just ignoring the actual triggers and traumas, that's just building up more resistance to healing. Because if I'm ignoring this fear of failure that I developed within my mind to the point where I'm having a physical bodily response to failure, continuing to ignore it would just create more resistance to healing that problem. And another thing I started noticing is, like, my body was so it was like my mind and body was so used to negative self-talk. Like, I felt relaxed, like I felt at ease when I started talking so negatively to myself. But as soon as I started to think positive, as soon as I started to think the possibilities are endless, there's so much abundance, as soon as I started to try to break these self-limiting beliefs about myself, it was like my body didn't know what to do with itself. The heart palpitations, my body would literally start trembling in fear and jerking because of these triggers and these traumas of fear and failure in my life. And isn't that backwards? Like, I feel like this just comes down to like backwards conditioning and backwards programming in our lives. Like, why do I feel at ease when I talk negative to myself, but as soon as I start to think about positive things in my life, my body starts trembling in fear? And this really reminds me of how, like, our mind is programmed with familiarity. Whatever we're most familiar with, that's where we feel safe. And sometimes we feel safe in these negative conditions because that is all we know, that is all we experience in our life. So anything outside of that, even though it's for the better, even though it's for our improvement, for our growth, our body and mind can become resistant to that because we're not familiar with it. Sometimes we're not familiar with positive things in our life. We're not familiar with good things. We're not familiar with growth and things that will become a better version of ourselves. Because of that lack of familiarity, that creates fear. And that's where the resistance comes in. And I've noticed that a lot within myself. And that's something that took me a while to heal from when it comes to that bodily response, especially when it came to that bodily response. Anything stepping outside my comfort zone, it was like that heart palpitation, that trembling, that jerking, that shaking sensation. Like, it was pretty bad. And I think it really comes down to not only like the traumas and triggers, it also comes down to healing our ego as well, because our ego wants us to stay in our comfort zone. Our ego wants us to stay complacent because the ego does not like change. The ego does not like growth. The ego does not like experiencing something that is not familiar with it. So healing the ego, neutralizing the ego was a lot of things that I had to do to regulate my own nervous system. So I want to share some things that helped me personally with regulating my nervous system and my body. To this day, I'm still dealing with like the heart pounding from time to time, trying to regulate my nervous system, but it's not as bad as it used to be. So these practices have helped me tremendously, and I want to share some with you. So the first thing I did was, like I said, all is mental. Everything starts in the mind. So slowing down my mind was the first thing I had to do, because my mind would race a million thoughts per minute. I would start to overthink things. I would ruminate on my life situation. I would have inner dialogues with myself and other people, and a lot of them were not positive. It was mostly about arguments or judgmental things that I would create in my mind, create all these what if scenarios that never existed. And that in return will cause me to ruminate about things that have never even existed or took place in reality. Getting control of my mind and my thoughts, how I feel about myself, being overly critical about myself or overly judgmental. I had to really get in control and really take note and be aware of the thoughts that I'm telling myself and the thoughts that I'm saying in my mind and how I feel about things and what exactly if I'm judging something too harshly, or if I'm being judgmental, or what type of energy am I saying to myself or saying about other people in my own mind. Like, taking control of that and mastering your thoughts will be the very first step into getting control of your body. because whatever your mind is thinking, the body will reflect that. Because these are deep, deep hidden inner traumas within our bodies that is buried within our subconscious. And also being patient with ourselves on our healing journey, because like I said, healing is not linear, it is a spiral, and it will take time to heal from these things. It will take time to regulate our nervous system or to transmute the energy of our inner dialogue and our conversations. It's definitely not going to happen overnight. I'm pretty sure it's not going to happen in 1 week. So it's all about being consistent and just staying persistent as well. And then over time, this is how you reprogram your mind to work for you, not against you. Some other things that helped me is meditation. I highly, highly recommend meditation if you haven't been meditating already. But if you're on a spiritual journey, you should be meditating, not just to be aware of your thoughts, but also to connect to your higher self, connect to higher dimensions as well. Meditation is very good for that. I feel like meditation is like an all-round, encompasses all different types of uses and things that you need to get done in meditation. So meditating is good because you will be aware of your thoughts. I know people have problems meditating because they can't get their thoughts to be cleared or they can't get their thoughts straight. I feel like that is okay because meditation is a practice. It's not just a one and done thing. You're practicing the art of controlling and being aware of your mindset, and meditation will help you in that practice. So the more you start meditating, the more you'll be aware of what you're thinking, be aware of your thoughts, and you're able to control them and neutralize them, so you can quiet the mind for you to receive your intuition, to receive direct guidance, receive direct promptings while meditating. So don't feel discouraged if you're not able to shut off your thoughts through meditation. The more you practice, the more you'll be able to do it. That's why it's a practice. So meditation, deep breathing is also very helpful. And there's a way you should be deep breathing. It's not just in and out. I may make a full video about actually doing deep breathing exercises correctly, but when you're deep breathing, you need to breathe from your diaphragm. A lot of people breathe from like their shoulders or from their lungs. When you're breathing, your stomach needs to expand outward. That's that inhale, and then you release. So that's just a quick example of how to do deep breathing. I may make a full video about that though. EFT tapping. I recently started doing EFT tapping and I feel like it's really been helping me. I'm noticing my body is way more relaxed when I do it. I feel more grounded. I feel more present with my body. I feel more in tune to myself. So I feel like EFT tapping is very good. It's pretty therapeutic for me because I like physical touch, so practicing it on myself kind of brings my body at ease. So that's definitely something that's been helping me. So all of these examples are just ways to start changing the chemistry of our brain. We're pretty much rewiring our brain to release different responses to our thoughts and triggers. So instead of getting these heart palpitations or these trembles or these shakiness in our body, when you start to talk positive, when you start to make a change, or when you want to do something outside of your comfort zone, instead we're rewiring our brain to do something different, to have a different bodily response. So instead of being completely nervous or scared to make a move in our life, we become excited, we become ecstatic. That's pretty much what we're rewiring our brain to do. So instead of thoughts about spiraling to the worst case scenario in our lives, we feel neutral because we rewired our brain to neutralize these negative thoughts to the point where it doesn't affect us on a physical response. So pretty much all of these just help us take control of our body again, our mind, our body, and our heart. Okay, that is all I have for this video today. I hope it finds you well. If you have anything you want me to discuss more specifically, let me know down in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you on the next video. Bye, y'all.